This video is sponsored by Knight's Chronicle!
That's right, kids, it's the hit turn-based mobile RPG that's bringing the world by storm. With real-time party play, multiplayer dungeons, explosive 3D animation, epic character designs, and an all-star cast of voice actors including Kaji Yuki, Sakura Ayane, and Sugita Tomokazu, why wouldn't you give this game a go? If you want to have fun and be part of the cool kids club, go download the game on iOS or Android by clicking the link in the description below. Anyways, thanks to Netmarble for sponsoring today's episode, and I hope you enjoy the video.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is the Anime Man. Opinions are really interesting in that they constantly change. They change as you grow older, learn new things, and discover new outlooks in life. And I believe the same goes for anybody who consumes anime and manga on a daily basis. I've been talking about anime and manga and everything that has to do with the otaku community here on YouTube for the past 5 years now, and suffice it to say that my opinions on different anime series, on different manga series, and just on the manga, anime, and otaku community in general has changed quite a bit for the better or worse. So today in this video I decided to list off 10 times that my opinion on an anime has changed and give you my reasons as to why it changed. Now before we begin, let's just make one thing clear. Just because I hold a different opinion to the 10 shows that I'm about to list off in this video, that doesn't mean that I am ashamed to have once thought indifferent about these shows. Again, I am 100% for people to constantly be changing their opinions about an anime. I think it's a natural process that is very important to go through, especially when you are doing something like I am doing on the internet, where I am constantly watching, consuming, and critiquing all sorts of different shows that come out in anime, and is something that eventually everyone is going to go through in their reviewing and critiquing lives. With that being said, let's jump straight into the first anime that I changed my mind on, starting with... I remember first watching Tolliver back God knows when it was airing and thinking that it was absolutely fucking awesome and how I loved it so goddamn much because A, I had just finished reading the Tolliver manga and had fallen in love with Yabuki Kentaro's impeccable art style, and B, that I was a horny prepubescent teen who enjoyed anything that had tits in them. And look, that's not to say that I've grown so old and jaded now that I don't enjoy any kind of ecchi or fan service centered anime. Heck, if there's a fucking amazing fan service or ecchi anime out there, God knows that I'm gonna be all over that shit. But I'm certainly not going to watch and enjoy that ecchi show and put it up on as high as a pedestal as I did with Tolliver back in the day. I specifically remember getting emotional for some reason at that final episode of Tolliver, to the point where I actually almost cried. Yeah, you heard me. I almost cried watching the ending to the Tolliver anime. Why is anyone subscribed to me? But looking back on it now, everything about the Tolliver adaptation was just very tacky and cheaply made. Not to mention, it barely followed its original source material. A lot of the ecchi scenes were very formulaic and predictable, with tacky music, cookie-cutter sound effects, and an art style which I think we can all agree did not age very well. Once you've seen the first episode in its entirety, you've basically seen the whole goddamn show. Look, I still like rereading the manga from time to time, and I really enjoyed reading through all of Tolliver Darkness. But both Tolliver and the Tolliver Darkness anime adaptations are just not as emotional or heart-driven as puberty-centered Joey thought it was at one point in his life. The opening is still dope though. I will forever defend that opening as being one of the most underdog anime openings. Like, that song is fucking fire, my boy. So all I'm gonna say now is don't even bother watching the Tolliver anime. Just listen to and enjoy the opening, because that's probably the best bit of the show. If you've been following my channel from the early stages of back when I used to do Let's Plays, oh my fucking god, then you would know that I was all over and had played every iteration of the Corpse Party franchise. I was so balls deep in the Corpse Party community that at one point I would say that I had 95% of the Corpse Party role-playing community in the palm of my hands. I'm definitely not proud to say that today. Like, there wasn't a day that I didn't see an account commenting on my— oh shit, dropped my phone. Whoops. Like, there wasn't a day that I didn't see a bunch of accounts named after Corpse Party characters role-playing in the comment sections of every single one of my goddamn videos. Those were definitely the dark ages of the Anime Man career. And I think it was because I watched it during that time period that I ranked Corpse Party Tortured Souls to such a high standard in my anime watching career. I remember clearly thinking that the extremely over-excessive gore and horror elements in this short OVA series was some of the most raw, gritty, and badass thing to ever come out of modern horror anime. And, man, I was stupid to think that. Look, I will say, after all this time, I still love Corpse Party. The first game was absolutely amazing. The comedy spin-off, Sachiko's Birthday Party, which I did a full Let's Play of, and I think I'm the only ever channel on YouTube to ever do a full Let's Play of, was funny and cute and hilarious. But this anime adaptation
sucks dick.
Way too gory for its own good. Absolutely butchered plot. Inaccurate and inconclusive ending. Rushed narrative. Boring art style. Forgettable music. Like, if you take any of the screams that you hear during this OVA series and you put it through an audio processor, you can actually hear them saying, "Please don't watch me, Christ almighty, I beg of you." I don't think this labeling exists, but if I had to name an anime series that falls under the NSFL genre, I would say Corpse Party is definitely at the top of the list. Now, this may come as a shock to a lot of people who know me personally, but the first time that I even heard about 5 centimeters per second, I thought it was a joke. There was no way that anyone could legitimately enjoy this uneventful, boring, music video-esque type of movie. But now that I've experienced after many, many years every other entry of the Shinkai Makoto filmography, that I must say that my opinions on 5 centimeters per second has just been completely flipped on its head. As much as many people will go on to praise the shit out of Your Name and Garden of Words, and as much as I love those movies, I still stand by in saying that 5 centimeters per second is the one Shinkai film that resonates with me harder than anything else in his filmography. Having now experienced the trials and tribulations that come with long distance relationships, and rewatching this film makes me tear up like no end. Like, this shit makes me tear up today more than Tolliver ever did during my prepubescent days. And if you've been paying attention during this whole video, you would know that's quite a feat of accomplishment. What I once thought were extremely boring and uneventful scenes actually have an extreme amount of depth and detail that I think really pushes the limits of what anime films are able to achieve visually and narratively. The fact that this movie still looks amazing to this day, even when comparing it to Shinkai's modern works, makes this film fall into the classic masterpiece list for me. How naive I was to think that this movie was boring and uneventful. Thank fucking God that my mature side finally came out and actually gave this movie another go. All in all, I'm just really glad that I managed to change my mind about this masterpiece of an anime film, and hey, I fucking love it now. I'm so glad to say now, after all these years, that I think that Danmachi, or Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, is actually a pretty damn good show. It has a solid plot, solid characters, and if you think about it, a rather unique twist on the whole isekai genre, even to this day. Which is all the more reason why it may come as a shock to some of you that I wasn't exactly impressed with this show the first time I heard about it. In fact, I actually dropped it the first time, about halfway through, thinking that the show wasn't really going to go anywhere in an interesting direction for me. But I gave it another try, and I must say, the way that the first season ended, like that final fight and arc, was fucking hype for me. I loved it. I figured this was going to be just another one of those isekai shows that at the time of its airing was just starting to creep its way into the oversaturated cesspool of repetitive crap. And in a sense, it is, but out of that bottomless cesspool, I think Danmachi is one of the few shows that I still quite enjoy to this day. I mean, if you went to Anime Expo last year, then you would know that I actually had the opportunity to do an entire Danmachi panel with the author of the original light novel series. So suffice to say that my opinions on Danmachi have changed quite a bit over the years, and I'm pretty pumped for season 2 and the movie that is yet to come out as of the recording of this video. So yeah, I mean, I like this show, man. What can I say? Ah yes, everyone's favorite kamidere. The Melancholia Suzumiya Haruhi was actually my first introduction to the light novel anime adaptations, considering that at the time of its release it was one of the most successful and influential light novel anime adaptations of its kind. I don't know if it was because the narrative of the Haruhi series was kind of following a rather unique type of storytelling that not many anime, even today, have really explored all that deeply as Haruhi did, or because I wasn't really into the whole kamidere genre of girls, and I don't know if I'm still quite into it today. It wasn't until I actually picked up the original light novel series that I decided to re-watch and re-evaluate the worth of the anime adaptation. And well, after all these these years, hopefully many of you know how much respect I have for the Melancholia Suzumiya Haruhi as one of those shows that, you know, maybe a little bit over-exaggerated, did actually create quite a changing rift in the overall otaku community. While I still absolutely despise the way that they adapted the infamous Endless 8 arc, Kyoto Animation did an incredible job at bringing this story to life in a way that has aged quite well in my opinion. It was figured that a story like this would have been quite difficult to bring onto the screen in animation format, but they managed to pull it off really well. And don't even get me started on the movie, The Disappearance of Suzumiya Haruhi. I will forever defend that movie as being one of the greatest TV series based movies from any anime series, period. Look, at the end of the day, if you personally don't enjoy the Melancholia Suzumiya Haruhi, its influence as a series has inspired many light novel-based anime adaptations of its day. And it's definitely a series that takes a little bit of getting used to at first in terms of storytelling and visuals and all of that. But once you've fallen into its universe, I think it's a show that many of you can really enjoy, as I did. If you're around in the online anime community during the early 2000s, then you may remember a little Higurashi craze that was going around. I am of course talking about Higurashi no Nakoro-ni, an anime which its notoriety and its absolutely goriness and grittiness brought quite a bit of controversy and infamy to the anime community. It brought us many controversial images and reaction gifs that we still use to this day. And I think it's because of this trend that its counterpart, Umineko no Nakoro-ni, also got the same amount of attention and respect as it did back in the day, as it was following a completely different story, but it had its equally gruesome, gory, and gritty moments, much like Higurashi did. And I will admit now that I might have been a little bit blinded by the Higurashi headlights to not realize that Umineko no Nakoro-ni isn't all that great as I thought it was. It certainly was never as good as Higurashi to begin with, but looking back on it now, I can't convincingly say that Umineko no Nakoro-ni is remotely even a good show. The narrative is overly confusing for the sake of being confusing, the gore makes little to no sense at times and is only there for pure shock value, and the characters in conclusion are so forgettable that I sometimes confuse it with what actually happened in Higurashi instead. Look, all I'm gonna say is, if you think that Higurashi is overly gory and overly edgy for the sake of being overly gory and overly edgy, then it's probably a good idea to completely skip Umineko no Nakoro-ni altogether. I made a statement about Future Diary, or more specifically its main heroine Yuno Gasai, in a previous episode of Let's Fight. Links in the description if you haven't checked it out, but if you have checked it out, then you would know that my opinion on that wasn't exactly radiating with positivity. But it wasn't always like that. In fact, much like many people who first watched Mirai Nikki back when it was airing, I actually thought it was a decently good show. But having rewatched the anime, read the manga to its end, and seeing how cancerous the community around it has gotten and spread throughout the anime community over the years, I must say that I have been quite bamboozled by the hype beast that laid within its frames. Now, I'm not saying that Mirai Nikki is exactly a shit show. In fact, it's far from that. I think some parts of the narrative were actually very cleverly constructed, and the animation and voice acting is phenomenal at times too. I just don't think Mirai Nikki is as good as I or many people made it out to be when we first watched it, that's all. If you want edgy battle royale-esque anime shows, there are better ones out there for you to watch. I feel the mere existence of Yuno is what blinded a lot of us at the time of its airing, and it's gotten pretty stale as of recent times, I must say. In fact, if you want to watch a show with a pink-haired yandere going absolutely insane, there is a show this current season called Happy Sugar Life that has exactly that, and only has a few episodes, but I already think is a better show than Mirai Nikki ever was. And look, I'm about to say some controversial shit, but Yuno is not the yandere queen, alright? I'm sorry. Kaede from Shuffle will forever stand as the greatest yandere of all anime history, and if you don't agree with that statement, shame on you. If you've never heard of this show and are kinda just scratching your head as to why it's even in this video and on this list, I don't blame you. This was during a time in my anime watching life where I was literally watching everything, and I mean everything that was airing during that season. No matter how fucking good it looked, no matter how fucking horrible it looked, no matter how much people were saying it was going to be a shit anime, I just watched it for the sake of watching it. And Hoshizora Kokoro Ha was one of those shows that I came out surprisingly positively out of. Maybe because I had zero expectations from a show based off an eroge of the same name, or because I was open to watching anything and everything that entered my prepubescent retinas, but I clearly remember thinking that the show was cute, simple, and surprisingly great. But now that I look back at it, it's not all that. It's just another mediocre, mindless romantic comedy with cute girls and an ecchi premise. Like, there are literally hundreds of other shows I've watched that could replace Hoshizora on this list, but you probably get my point. All I'm gonna say is puberty is a dangerous thing, kids. Just watch what you say online and watch what you think online during that stage, because you may regret it once you become an adult, like me. Fuck. Now, I've saved the best 2 entries for last because I know that it is already going to stir up the most amount of controversy down in the comments below. But let's start off with everyone's favorite derailed freight train of an anime, School Days. School Days is an interesting entry in this list because I've actually changed my opinion twice about this show. The first time I watched it, I thought it absolutely fucking sucked, like how 99% of the people who watch School Days probably think about it right now. But then a few years ago, I actually made a video where I re-evaluated the worth and the ending to School Days, the infamous ending to School Days, and concluded that it was actually one of the most genius anime endings of all time. Yeah, you heard me correctly. I have a past of calling School Days a genius anime. Why is anyone subscribed to me? So now what do I think about School Days? Well, I don't think it's exactly the horrible show that everybody thinks it is, but I also don't think it's the genius show that I once made it out to be. Out of all of the visual novel based anime adaptations we ever got, I do think, however, that School Days has one of the most unique and interesting endings and ending plot twists of all time. And the fact that the creators of the anime adaptation decided to go out of their way to use one of the most notorious bad endings of visual novel history to end their anime adaptation, I think deserves a little bit more credit than what we're actually giving them. Because you have to admit, no matter how much you hate the ending to that anime, it's pretty goddamn satisfying to watch. Now, I'm obviously not gonna say it in this video in case you guys haven't seen School Days, even though you had over 10 years to catch up on this shit. But I do actually recommend you check out this anime if you want to witness one of the biggest upsets of 2000s anime. If you end up hating it like everybody else, then I'm just sorry in advance, okay? And finally, we're at the end of this list, the final anime that I controversially changed my opinion on in my anime watching career, and that is, of course, yeah, that's right, my favorite anime. I find it absolutely hilarious that on the face of AniTube, I am the one who is considered the guy who hates SAO. Especially considering that compared to some other AniTubers out there, I haven't actually comparatively made that many videos shitting all over SAO. I mean, look, yes, I absolutely dislike this show in every form of its being, but I'm not going to go over that in this video because, again, I have made videos about that discussing why I do dislike it, which I'll leave in the description below to anyone who is ever interested. But funnily enough, when I first watched SAO back when it was airing and I finished watching the first arc, the Aincrad arc, I actually kinda liked it. Now granted, this was 6 years ago and a lot of things have changed in the 6 years of my life since the first time I watched SAO. But I'm not afraid to admit that yes, the first time I watched SAO, I didn't think it was as bad as I make it out to be today. At the time of SAO's anime adaptation, there were not many series that focused on the MMORPG isekai genre, and so it was a very new and unique take on a concept that a lot of people thought they never wanted out of their anime. Even though I don't like it now, the first few episodes of SAO are actually not that bad. In fact, I've gone on record to say that the opening episode is actually a really good episode that clearly articulates the narrative concept and tone for the entire show. The unfortunate thing is that after around episode 3, that narrative concept and tone started to diminish at a rapid rate, where by the end of the arc, it had devolved into basically a completely different anime entirely. It's not until I started to watch the second half of the first season, the Alfheim Online arc, that I started to be like, oh,
this show kinda sucks.
And it wasn't until that rewatching, thanks to the second half of the first season, that at the end of it all, I discovered that beneath the surface level, SAO is kind of a shit show. Which is why I absolutely do not blame anyone who watches SAO today and thinks it's a great show, because I understand how you feel. I was there in your shoes at one point in my life. But after the rapid explosion of the MMORPG isekai genre, thanks to in no small part the success of the SAO series, it made me realize how much more of a potential the genre had in the sphere of anime. It's really truly a shame at the end of the day that so many great isekai shows actually go unnoticed because of how defensive the SAO community can get, even though, especially recently, that kind of hardcoreness has definitely died down among the community. But at the end of the day, that's their prerogative. If they want to continue to just watch SAO and ignore all the other MMO shows, then that's completely fine. That is their prerogative, much like how my opinion is my prerogative. That's just how I want to think about it. So yeah, I am absolutely not ashamed to say that at one point in my anime watching life, I did actually kind of like SAO, but kind of how I explained it in this video, my opinions constantly keep changing when it comes to anime. I'm just glad now that today I can convincingly look at you, or look at the camera which is looking at you, and convincingly say that yeah, I do not like SAO. It's a pretty bad show. And there you have it, guys. Those are the 10 times that I changed my opinion on an anime. Now, granted, there are probably a lot more shows that I could have covered in this list, but I didn't want to make it into like a 2-hour long video of me just constantly talking about how my opinion changed. So instead, I'm going to throw the question over to you guys. Do you have an anime series or a number of anime series that you once thought was great or once thought was shit, but then completely changed your opinion on over the course of your life? Did you change your opinion for the better or for the worse? I'm really interested to hear what you guys think, so make sure to let me know all that kind of stuff in the comments below. Again, thank you very much to the lovely folks over at Knights Chronicle for sponsoring this video. Again, if you would like to check out the video, then make sure to click those links in the description below to download either the iOS or the Android version. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. As always, like and favorite if you enjoy, subscribe for more anime banner, and I'll see you guys in the next video of whatever I make. Keep watching anime. Dane!